Superman 2. This is a weird part of my Superman series of reviews. So, most people, when they do a Superman 2 review, they don't review both cuts separately. But I've decided I want to do it that way. Because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff here to talk about with that separate cut of Superman 2. And I want to talk about with you guys. So let's get into the Superman 2 review. So, I am talking about the theatrically released cut. I'm going to do a very brief description of kind of what happened with this movie, and I'm not so. If it sounds like parts are missing from the story, I'm summarizing it to the best of my ability. If you would like a better version of this, there are lots of other YouTube videos out there explaining articles, books, explaining what happened with Superman 2 and why it has two different cuts. And basically, what happened with this movie is pretty insane. So, it's kind of weird because essentially Superman 1 came out. And Richard Donner directed it. It was a big hit. Obviously, had to make a sequel. I think Warner Brothers kind of knew that. They put a lot of money into this movie. Clearly, they had a lot of faith in this movie. A lot of people at the time weren't really sure if it would work, though, because comic book movies had happened before then, but not like Superman. Not the kind of money they were putting into it. And they wanted to go bigger and better with the sequel. Well, they had a lot of disagreements with Richard Donner, fired him off of the project. There was just one problem. They needed a director to finish it. And a director to finish it, well, a director that would go and finish it would have to reshoot a bunch of Richard Donner scenes because otherwise, legally, they would not get credited as the director. So there's a lot of scenes that he took shot for shot and did, and then the rest of the movie was directed by him, in a sense. Very strange story. It leads to this cut feeling like it's probably the most cohesive version of a movie like that, because very rarely when you watch a sequel or a movie that's had that kind of issue and workarounds and all these issues, when you watch it, do you feel like that is the movie's very cohesive? But at the end of the day, this movie has kind of become, or not kind of, when most people say, what's my favorite of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, they either say the first one or the second one, and 9 times out of 10, you get the second one. Because I think this movie does actually have more of a character arc for Superman, dealing with the conflicts of not having powers. Basically, the plot of Spider-Man 2 is what he does in this movie. And sure, it still has those goofy elements from the first movie, which is that he has the emotions of that stuff, but then you get shit like him throwing the S, which is so goofy, but not as goofy as him turning back the clock to reverse time. It's a weird movie with some of that stuff, but it's still I would argue it is better than Superman 1 just because of that. Because my biggest issue with Superman 1 as a Superman movie, there wasn't really a character arc and him struggling to deal with the powers. Now, do I think Superman would ever give up his powers? Not really. It's not really the most Superman type story. But it's also interesting to see that because I feel like it is a side of the character that maybe could be explored in comics. It's not just something I'm used to, so automatically it just doesn't feel like Superman to me, but not in a bad way, just in a, oh, I've never really seen that before. And I think that is interesting. Zod is a better villain in this movie than Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. I mean, he just is. I don't think Gene Hackman, while good as an actor and good in the role in that first movie, it's not Lex Luthor at all. But that's kind of the movie. I think this is a really good sequel that I think improves upon the original. It's one of the few sequels where I can see that they went bigger and bolder with some of these action scenes and plot points and story details. and it didn't feel like it was overstuffed and kind of too much. It felt right. Where a lot of sequels have the problem of let's make it bigger and badder, and it doesn't really come together. Some ways it really didn't come together because they had to make a whole different cut, but we'll talk about that in the next video. Let me know your thoughts. Like, share, and subscribe.